We are alive. What's up, everybody? What is going on? We are here to do the show. Well. What happened? What happened? Don't worry. He's got this under control. You're panicking. Sure we are. So, if you haven't been paying attention to what's been going on these last few days, and this is how I always start the streams, I usually miss about 3 days in the beginning of the week, and then I go into everything. A lot of crazy stuff has happened today, has happened yesterday, and Sunday was kind of the start of all this madness. So what happened on Sunday? Obviously, J.D. Vance was supposed to get on Air Force Two, along with his Middle Eastern envoy, or really Trump's Middle Eastern envoy, Jared Kushner, Stephen Witkoff, make it all the way to Islamabad and negotiate a peace deal, right? Broker this peace deal. At least Pakistan was going to broker it. And they never left the runway. Now, many can speculate as to why, but there's kind of an obvious direct reason. As we all know, Donald Trump had imposed a blockade on Iranian ports. And so the parliament speaker of Iran, Mohammad Ghalibaf, had came out in a statement, a 7-point refutation of Trump's Truth Social post, and said line by line every single thing that Donald Trump is lying about and what the current stipulations will need to look like in order for Iran to not only open the strait, keep it open, and come to the table for diplomacy. Donald Trump, of course, never responded and kept the ports blocked. And so, surprise, surprise, we get to Sunday, and there were no peace talks because Iran had probably told Pakistan that relayed to Washington they're not coming and they're not willing to have any peace talks until we lift the blockade on their ports. These ports are responsible for oil, for goods, for several things that actually help Iran's economy stay stable in this difficult war they're somehow sustaining themselves in. And so, you can make the argument that Donald Trump is kind of withholding the potentiality of peace. Why? It could be because he's a narcissistic freak. It could be because he has dementia. It can be because the United States doesn't really want a peace deal and we just want to return war or restart the war rather, maybe hit their power plants. This is all speculation. I would say probably the first theory is correct. I just think Donald Trump wants to flex his muscles as if he's winning when he's not. So we'll get into all the news and everything. Today, Iran had seized or really attacked 3 ships in the Persian Gulf, I believe, or really the Strait of Hormuz. 2 of them being Greek ships, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't get to see all the details because this is fresh news and I've been seeing conflicting reports. However, I have an article by the New York Times that I'm going to read with you guys here in a moment very briefly. So we'll get into everything. But what happened? I thought we were panicking. We were panicking. Trump had it under control. Abbas Araghchi on Friday had said the Strait of Hormuz is now open. However, they were still making money in the strait. But he said the Strait of Hormuz is now open, and so ships can safely pass through. All of these oil vessels can pass through. And, of course, Donald Trump did not lift his blockade. That is hurting the Iranian economy. And according to Donald Trump on Truth Social, they're allegedly losing $500 million a day from this blockade. Now, we all know that's likely not true. Iran has many other ways of making money. They don't depend on those ports. Iran has very obscure ways of keeping their economy stable because they've learned how to do that due to our sanctions imposed on their government and their economy for several years. So, really, and I'm always doing the vindication thing at the beginning of every stream, but you guys wouldn't believe how many people DM me, how many people comment on some of my videos. Sometimes I check the comments on my shorts. However, the shorts comments are usually very low IQ, YouTube shorts, because it's like boomers scrolling YouTube shorts. I mean, who scrolls YouTube shorts, right? You've got to be like 30 plus. So, I get silly comments and everything, and people DM me, and I've had a couple friends come up to me in person and say, hey, man, you're doubting Trump too much, man. I get it. The war was a bad idea, but it seems like we may be able to reel this back. Oh, what happened? What happened? Now J.D. Vance looks like a dumbass because he wants to broker peace and take this bragging right to the finish line in 2028 and use it on the debate stage and look like the hero. And he can't because his president is an idiot and has dementia and is narcissistic. I don't know if he actually has dementia. However, some medical experts have said that he does. But I mean, it seems like it. I mean, look how many times he's contradicting himself on Truth Social. So, JD Vance is getting the runaround. Maybe he's fighting with Donald Trump. No, but it's a shitty situation. So, and this is the thing. It was increasingly obvious that this blockade was going to allow for no ability from Tehran to actually exercise some sort of diplomacy. Obviously, right? And it was highly unnecessary because the Strait of Hormuz was open, and that's what's, of course, choking the global oil market. And Iran now attacked ships today for two reasons, I speculate, either because of the fact that these ships, quote unquote, allegedly broke maritime navigational law, or two, and I'm kind of leaning towards the latter theory, is because of the fact that they actually want to respond to the United States. Because, of course, if you didn't remember from my last stream, the United States had struck an Iranian cargo vessel heading into an Iranian port, I believe, and it went by the name or designated as Tuska. So, is this a retaliation? I don't know. Iranian officials, or really a lot of words out of Iranian media, had kind of echoed the fact that there will be a retaliation for that American strike on that ship in which we hit an engine room and then allegedly seized the ship. Donald Trump said on Truth Social, we're going to check out what's on the ship or something like that. So, look, here's the bottom line. And I'm going to read some chats here in a moment and then get into the article. But here's the bottom line. Donald Trump is fighting, and I said this last stream, he's fighting very hard to make it look like he has the upper hand. And Iran, at the same time, refuses to be bullied. We had a situation where Iran just defended themselves effectively well. Look, did they kill a ton of leadership? Yeah, they killed about 3,400 civilians. The death toll was officially released today, at least a rough estimate by Iranian officials. And so we dealt a ton of damage militarily, and we killed a lot of leadership, but Iran has still been able to deal out asymmetric, painful, attritional war. They have struck all the Gulf countries. They've been striking Israel. In Israel, the IDF is losing on the ground to Hezbollah. They have not actually gained any ground in southern Lebanon, despite the Apple maps pulling off all of these territories. They haven't actually done anything, right? All these municipalities that were formerly there on Apple maps are now gone. Interestingly enough, I don't know what's going on with Apple there. And at the same time, of course, Israel is, without a doubt, encroaching and attempting to annex southern Lebanon, something that has been a goal of theirs for a long time, maybe 50, 60 years at this point. And they've been bombing and attacking Lebanon in doses ever since really the inception of Israel, moving all the way from the 40s to the 50s and so on. And so there's no surprise there, but they're not actually getting anywhere. And Iran has defended themselves against Israel and the United States. And so I'm saying all this to highlight a bigger point to you guys. Iran is not just going to get bullied now. Iran has effectively shown the world that they can actually fight the United States without having to match their air power. They have a very capable mid-range ballistic missiles program with missiles that can reach Israel in about 7 minutes to 10 minutes, those being their hypersonic missiles. They have tons of drones that they are building as I'm speaking to you now, hundreds of feet underground. And there's a situation where it really doesn't look like the United States is going to be able to stop them in striking these Gulf countries or really any country in the region unless we put boots on the ground or nuke them. That's kind of like the only two options to actually nullify Iran's offensive ability in the midst of war. Of course, there's always a potentiality of a ceasefire, and then that leads to a peace deal, which is what we're hoping for. But if this war continues, well, then it's going to continue to be painful for the United States. Iran knows that. So for them, it's like, hey, you want to block out? Look, we're willing to make a peace deal, but you're not going to bully us. And that's what the United States is effectively doing. The Navy has now blocked a lot of their ports. However, I'm reading from different reports that allegedly 34 Iranian ships have still passed through in and out. And so is this kind of a symbolic show or is this physical? I don't know. I would imagine it's actually hurting Iran, of course, because of the fact that they have responded to other ships in the strait by attacking them, as well as the fact that, it's the main reason they're not coming to diplomacy in Islamabad because of the fact that their ports are blocked. And so, of course, it's hurting them, but they refuse to be bullied. So you have a situation where Trump refuses to look like the loser, but Iran refuses to be bullied. And we're not going to get very far with those two things existing simultaneously. Somebody's going to have to put up. And it's likely going to have to be Donald Trump because we started this war. And so to remove the IRGC and reach all of our goals is, of course, so much more long-winded than Donald Trump just saying, hey, we reached a peace deal. And so now, just recently on Truth Social, Donald Trump had said that the ceasefire will extend indefinitely due to the fact that there were no peace talks actually materialized on Sunday. And Tuesday were supposed to be, and it was all over the news if you didn't see it, there was supposed to be an attempted second chance at the second round of peace talks. Didn't happen. Iran said we're not going. Why is Iran not going? Because of this naval blockade. So, and there's other things going on. Of course, you have Israel agitating the issue with Lebanon. It seems like fighting is about to pick back up. Allegedly, the IDF had just announced that Hezbollah had launched a drone into northern Israel and it was intercepted. Something I saw on the IDF's Twitter just a moment ago. And so, that's just like a ticking time bomb, really. But it's this hot potato situation where somebody's got to put up, and Iran is not settling for anything. We had talks. We actually sat with them at the table back in early April or mid-April, really, when J.D. Vance went. And people thought that J.D. Vance being there was going to make a difference, LOL, and the Middle Eastern envoy. And there was no deal reached. J.D. Vance said after, I believe, 21 hours or so of negotiating back and forth, them getting on the phone with Ayatollah, them coming back to the table, Pakistan walking back and forth. Allegedly, at one point, the talks were face-to-face. All of these extensive talks, both sides obviously wanting peace in the end, could not come to an agreement. And of course, that's because both sides likely have maximalist demands. And for the United States, we're no stranger to maximalist demands because we have the ability to impose the strongest military in the world on any country that exists. But Iran has displayed that it actually doesn't make much of a difference. And so now we have to actually decrease or pull back from our demands. And the biggest thing here is we've lost escalation dominance. So us trying to block their ports with our naval power and cut their oil off and cut their export and their import off and all of these goods that bolster their economy and help them survive or really thrive, as a matter of fact, have now been cut off. But it's the main thing that's actually stopping free flow in the Strait of Hormuz. And so who actually has escalation dominance here? The answer is actually Iran. Previously, we may have had it, but now it doesn't seem to be the case. Any offensive move we make guarantees that strait will be blocked. And this is Iran's whole thing. And I tweeted this weeks ago. I tweeted this in the beginning of the war. I said, Iran will grab a hold of that strait and they will not let it go until they get everything they want. And that is what has happened. So Donald Trump could swallow his pride to some degree, of course, and try and just end this conflict. Believe it or not, he actually has the power to. Because look, even without the full ceasefire, the Strait of Hormuz was open. It was open on Friday. And so you had a situation where we didn't have to give Iran everything they wanted, right? Like maybe reparations or something else. And at the same time, they opened the Strait of Hormuz. So we were getting somewhere. And the United States was able to free its partners around this blockade. We were able to kind of give them a moment of relief or a sigh of relief and say, look, the strait is open. We haven't gotten to a peace deal yet, but at least we took a big step in the right direction. But then, of course, this blockade ruined all of it. So I don't mean to be repetitive here, but you've got to ask yourself a question: who is actually exacerbating the issue? And although it's not in my best interest to say this, it's the United States that's actually exacerbating the issue, primarily, of course, Donald Trump. So I'll read some chats, and then we'll get into everything. Like the video. Like the video. It's a Coke Zero. We don't drink our calories over here. Just came from the gym. Did some cardio. I did a little arms. I did some cardio. Feeling good. You know what I'm saying? You feel me? You know? The Burnt Peanut Funny Moments. Shout out to you for joining the squad. Welcome, my friend. Thank you so much. Interesting name there, but we don't judge. Mr. Ferdinand, $2 says, I don't edit Wikipedia. If I don't edit Wikipedia, somebody else will. Yeah, very true. Thanks, bro. Zeno says, W. Riyadh, nice intro. What was that music with Theo Von in the beginning? I need to know, bro. I don't even know, but And I could find out after the stream. YouTube copyrights it for me. I had somebody comment the other day and say, why'd you pull the intro out of the stream? You have to cut it out after the stream is over. Nigga, I'm getting copyrighted. So I have to take it out. But I love that edit, so I like it in the video, but I have to pull it out. I'm not sure, though. Excuse me. I'm burping a lot. I had a Coke Zero. Mr. Ferdinand says, Trump said he wanted to speak to Hormuz directly. Yeah. Well, Trump was flirting with the idea of speaking with the Iranians directly, but I mean, could you imagine that? That's a shit show. For obvious reasons. Not sure if I'm a fan of that idea. ZZ Shake says, W streamer, I feel like you've become a better orator since I started watching. Really? I hope that's the case. Thanks so much, man. You know, here's the thing. I have a routine. Now I'm about to stroke my own ego. I'm not doing that, but I'm like explaining to you because things change. I had a routine. Look, I started streaming in the month of, in case you happen to care, I started streaming in the month of March, right? Or really February. The end of February, kind of the beginning of March. Yeah. March. Let's just say March. And that was, of course, Ramadan. So I was fasting. So I would scarf a meal, hit the gym, come back. And at first I thought, hey, this is not ideal. I'm going to have to switch up this regimen once I stop fasting. But I noticed it helps. You know, if you, there's some I'm telling you, and I said this last stream, bro, if you feel like you have brain fog, if you feel like you can't think, and I'm not trying to be on no weird spiritual shit, go for a walk. Genuinely just go outside, go for a walk. And you get going. I don't know. I can't be stagnant all day. I notice that I don't think or I can't speak as fluidly or as smoothly. So I go for walks. So every day I obviously go to work like a wagey. Then I get back. I check out the news again just to make sure there's no crazy developments. And then I go to the gym. I hit the gym for maybe an hour. Go for some moderate cardio. I walk on the treadmill, maybe like 3.7 speed, whatever. Little incline, 8 incline for like 20, 30 minutes. And I'm getting a good sweat, blood's flowing. I come home, I either scarf a meal or I have like just some fruit and I go live. And I notice that's like, I'm lasered. I'm lasered on it. So that's my thing. So I'm really glad you think that. I can't watch myself. You know, I turn my videos on. I turn my own videos on and I turn it right off. I'm like, ugh, I cannot hear myself. I don't know if other people who stream think that or feel that way. Maybe that's not a good thing. Maybe you're not supposed to feel that way. But I listen back to myself and I'm like, okay, please, no. I was with my boy the other day and he was like, yo, let's turn your video on. Let's watch it. It was a video that went viral with Patrick Bet-David. It got like 40K views or something like that. And he turned it on. I'm like, nigga, turn this shit off. I hate listening to myself talk. And everybody hates the sound of their own voice. So I'm glad you enjoy it, okay? I don't know why I had to explain all that. I'm glad you enjoy it, all right? Thank you, Zizi. Ibrahim says, Salam, brother. What are your pronouns? Zizer. No, he, him, his. Salam, Ibrahim. Halimi says, you got to react to that Islam feminism TikTok. I have it queued, bro. Don't worry. We'll take a look at it. W Riyadh, how's it going, bro? Hope all is well with you. Yeah, everything's good, man. I hope all is well with you. Keep killing it on X. Your clips are really good. Shout out to you. I think one of your clips went viral on X, right? I see you on Insta and X, but one of them went viral on X. I don't know. But anyways, yeah, so. Okay, see, chat is saying they hate their own voice. Yeah, I hate it. I cringe. I'm like, yo, I sound ugly. I don't mind looking at myself. Like if I'm watching the video back, I need a haircut, so don't judge me. But I hate listening to myself. I hate it. I'll do it if I need to, right? Like it's not that deep. Like I'll listen back. And I'm sure after some time, I'll just get used to hearing myself. But dude, because my voice, I sound like a squeaker. I listen back to the stream and I'm like, why is my voice so high? And so you get into moments of passion and maybe your voice raises. But I sound like such a bitch. In my own perception, of course, like my perspective, I just think I sound stupid. But yeah. Anyways, that's all chats, right? Okay. So we'll get into all the nitty-gritty, all the good stuff. For Myron, the case of Myron, I believe he should be going live any moment. You know, unless he slept. I hope he didn't fall asleep. No, he's about to go live right now. He's live right now. Is he? Hang on. Yeah, he's doing a show with lawyer Hassan Shibly. So that's going to be on Fresh and Fit. But yeah, I'll give you the news real quick. It'll be a shorter stream. I said that last time, it was a 5-hour stream. I'll give you the news real quick. I'm dead serious. It'll be like a shorter stream. It's not going to be long-winded. There's not so much to cover, but I get going. I get into it. I get into it. So it'll be a nice cutesy stream. All right. So yeah. Anyway, so we're going to read this by the New York Times. It reads, reported seizure of ships injects new uncertainty over peace talks. Okay, Iran's Revolutionary Guard said they had seized 2 ships near the Strait of Hormuz. A Trump spokeswoman said the president did not view those actions as violating the ceasefire, interestingly enough. So, and there were just some reports on X that Tehran was under attack. Some missiles from Kuwait. Apparently that's not true, though, so don't worry if you saw that. I'm assuming somebody may chat that in. And we will also talk about, somebody just put it in the chat. Thank you for reminding me. I have it queued here. John Phelan, Secretary of the Navy, has resigned effective immediately, leaving the Pentagon without an official reason for his sudden departure. And this is what we're seeing. We're seeing this wave. And I'm telling you, man, and I'm not trying to be a pessimist. If Donald Trump or the MAGA campaign or the GOP as a whole is hooping, then I'm hooping with them. But bro, they're failing. And of course, everybody inside senses that. And so you're seeing this like Joe Kent effect. And what better reason do you need, or really piece of evidence do you need, than people inside of the U.S. military, people inside of the Trump cabinet, inside of the executive branch, just stepping down from their highly ranking positions? It's because Trump is absolutely cooked in November. That's really why. And I think Donald Trump at this point has, well, I mean, he's kind of losing his mind. He's a bit of a narcissist, but I think there's some idea that he knows maybe this is not going to last. I don't know if he'll be impeached, but it's definitely going to be a lot harder for the GOP to create or pass any legislation if the House is dominated by Democrats. So really, the GOP lost regardless, so long as midterms do not go in the Republicans' favor, in which it certainly will not. Well, then you can bet that Donald Trump is going to lose a lot of his quote-unquote executive power as well. Of course, Congress is going to be his crux. So we'll see what happens. But that's kind of like the whole prediction here, and that's why a lot of people are jumping off of the Trump ship. And by the way, Tulsi Gabbard, I think, is about to resign as well. I just read a report the other day that she has been given until November to kind of step down from her position herself, or something along those lines. And that's no secret because, of course, she's always kind of hesitated to voice any sort of support, or I don't want to say support, but you can tell that she's been on the fence in regards to this war. And Tulsi Gabbard, of course, the head of the intelligence community, the National Director of Intelligence, had said previously in 2019, before working under Donald Trump, that the biggest mistake he will make is starting a war with Iran. The reason why she said it at the time is because that was fresh after Donald Trump had rendered the IRGC a terrorist organization and imposed sanctions back on Iran and tarnished the Iranian nuclear deal. And Tulsi Gabbard, in response to this during 2019 Democratic debates, as well as her own individual statements and several other instances I'm sure I'm unaware of, had said and really voiced with vigor and passion that Donald Trump's biggest mistake will be starting a conflict with Iran, which for anybody who's an expert or anybody who has any political literacy saw coming from a long time away. However, I didn't even see, and I'll admit this myself, I didn't know Trump would do what he did on February 28th. I didn't think he would do that. I did not think he would do that. I didn't think he'd go that far. And of course, right, John Kiriakou said it, and I don't know if it's true, but it makes sense. It just kind of lines up with the paradigm of history, and the pattern that we've been seeing recently with this MAGA campaign is every single president prior to Donald Trump has, I don't want to say been influenced. Of course, they're all influenced by Israel, but has been heavily begged from Israel to kind of attack Iran. You know, Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu himself really has been the forerunner to try and get the United States involved in a Middle Eastern conflict or a regional war, that being with Iran, a long-winded, full-scale one. And I think every single president has probably told them, hey, I'm not going to do that. That's too far. Like Obama, like Bush, like Biden. But of course, Trump was the one who bit on the bait. People see that line of logic, and so the first thing they think is, oh, Epstein, oh, blackmail. Yeah, could be true. I'm not opposed to those things. I just don't like to speak too much in speculative language. I don't know how true that is, right? But there's no doubt Donald Trump did see the benefit in distracting people from the Epstein files, because that was the biggest ping on a president in recent history. So, only a few presidents have been impeached. Donald Trump is certainly on his way to being the next one. What better than to try and start a war that would make you look good? At least that's what he thought in his mind. But then, of course, he made him look like shit. Because I could imagine Benjamin Netanyahu in the Oval Office in Washington, right? By the way, I visited him 7 times, a total of 7 times, if you hadn't known that. And he's saying, Mr. President, if you strike the IRGC, because they're building missiles, and they're building them fast, but if you strike, you will decapitate this regime in a matter of days, I guarantee you. And the president said, you don't say. All right, I'm like doing the whole bit like a monkey. But really, I think maybe Netanyahu, and this is what I'm saying when I say Donald Trump is really losing his mind. In my mind, I'm imagining Netanyahu's in Washington, and he's telling Donald Trump, whilst he's under all this heat of this Epstein scandal, Pam Bondi just got fried and everything like that. And so he's in a really bad position. He's compromised. Melania just came out the other day kind of like indirectly voicing some sort of like neutral position. But regardless, so Donald Trump is under all this heat. Benjamin Netanyahu is in the Oval Office, and he's telling him, look, one good thing you can do that will earn all of your recognition back, increase your approval rating, is end the regime in the IRGC like you did in Venezuela. And of course, maybe Donald Trump had thought to himself, well, that's a great idea. And so he bombs Iran because Israeli intelligence, Mossad, Benjamin Netanyahu, whoever it was specifically, something belonging to Israel, the entity of Israel and its influence, had gotten into Donald Trump's mind and told him this would be a week, 2 weeks at most. And so that's why Donald Trump and really the White House had confidently boasted that this would be a maybe 4 to 5 day conflict, at most 2 weeks. It's day 50 something. So, and this is the consequence of course, and I've said this before, and I don't want to be too redundant, but this is the consequence of Donald Trump prioritizing Israeli intelligence over his own, because his own IC had told him this is a horrible idea. You cannot conquer Persia, especially the IRGC Persia, right? The Iranian regime, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, because they fortified their military in a mosaic fashion. And so even if military leadership is decapitated or killed, their supreme leader being the top, the religious zealot, he was even killed on day 1 or 2. It made no difference for them because they have different factions or different real groups or doses of that military that operate independent of leadership or big leadership. So they have several different pyramids of command under the big pyramid that move autonomously, and they receive demands autonomously or orders autonomously. And when Khamenei was killed, it seemed like there was a dead switch or a dead man switch effect where missiles were flying back at every other country in the region within the hour. If you remember, every single time I opened Twitter, every single time I opened the news, it was Kuwait is hit, Saudi Arabia is hit, Riyadh is hit, Bahrain is hit. I know Riyadh's in Saudi Arabia. For some dumbass who's going to say Riyadh is Saudi Arabia. I know that. I'm saying, though, Riyadh being hit was kind of something that even took me by surprise, right? UAE, no surprise there. I knew they would be the first, and they've gotten the brunt of it. I think they've received the most missile strikes with around 2,000, if I'm not mistaken. And so, there was this dead man switch effect, and that's to show, or that's really to say, and I'm mentioning this to you because the IRGC does not need its leadership. It's really all symbolic. Do you need any greater piece of evidence than these last 50 days to see that? Aramco being hit in Saudi, the desalination plant in Kuwait being hit. These are precision munition strikes, critical infrastructure that are blowing right through U.S. air defense and Israeli air defense. Is Russian intelligence aiding the cause? Potentially. Chinese radar, whatever it is, of course. But I'm saying this to say, obviously, you can't just go in, bomb Iran, and decapitate the regime. The IC knew that, right? CIA probably knew that. John Ratcliffe likely knew that. All of these guys knew that. Gabbard, Kent, and Trump still went ahead and did what he did. All of his closest advisors, maybe even Pete Hegseth, although Pete Hegseth is just the yes man because he's happy he's in Washington, right? Trump pulled him out the fire, but I'm pretty sure every single qualified person inside of Donald Trump's corner had told him, not a good idea. But like I said, you build the pitch right, You got your sales skills ready. You know, like Netanyahu, you sell the idea that the Epstein thing will be brushed under the rug if this conflict starts. And hey, look, to some degree, that's right, because who's talking about Epstein anymore? You know, I have not seen the news talk about Epstein at all since this war had started. And of course, presently, that issue is more pressing, of course, like that's more important. The Iranian issue is that much greater than that of the Epstein scandal, because we can always return to that. And of course, like this Iranian issue has now choked the global oil market, but really it has done what I would imagine Donald Trump would have liked it to do, is distract people. But now the problem is he just created another issue that didn't exist before, and now he looks dumb again. And he's lost all his base now. The whole Epstein thing had all the MAGA base on the fence like, what are we doing? You know, Candace Owens, Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, everybody was like, what's going on here? And they were talking about it. But the Iran war made everybody draw the line and jump to the other side. And of course, that's why Trump wrote his essay attacking everybody. But, you know, it's a multifaceted structure of reasoning as to why this war took place. A lot of people say Epstein. I'm not opposed to that theory. Of course, the real reason is because this was Donald Trump's ultimate mission. You know, he was the Trojan horse for this. Duh. That's why he came in 2018 and destroyed the deal. So, all right, we're going to read the article. Sorry. We're going to read the article. My mouth is dry. I need water. Let me read these chats really quick. I try to read the chats fast. I don't like to let them sit. Bro, stop being ashamed of your voice acting. It's top grade. Got a smile on my face every time. Hey, thanks, Dre. I appreciate that, man. Pause there, low-key. Pause. But thank you so much, bro. God bless. Elise says, off topic, but have you seen nuclear and aerospace scientists going missing or dying from apparent suicides? Coincidence or connected? Of course that's connected. Right? But remember John Kiriakou? His clip was funny. If you don't know who he is, he's former CIA. And he went to prison for some time, whatever. I know some people don't like him, but he was saying that Mossad would call these Iranian scientists or their wives and tell them that, like, we're going to bomb your whole block and you need to get the fuck off. Like, he would tell the wives of these Iranian nuclear scientists, we are about to bomb, you know, this whole block, this whole territory, this whole province, whatever municipality. If you don't get out, well, you'll be a part of that strike the next day. So, yeah, of course, the nuclear scientists are always going to be a target, if that's what you're referring to. That's when I did the famous impression, you're going to die tomorrow, in an Israeli accent. Everybody loved that. All right. Enough. Damn. Okay. Let us get into the article, damn it. So this is from the New York Times. This was updated like 30 minutes ago, whatever. Nothing really new as of now, although you always miss breaking developments when you're live because you're doing the show. But let's take a look. So here is the latest. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps of Iran. Am I muted? Okay, I'm not. I do that a lot. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps of Iran said it had seized 2 cargo ships on Wednesday, that being today, near the contested Strait of Hormuz, Iranian news media reported. Adding uncertainty to a ceasefire President Trump extended on Tuesday, hours before it would have expired. And don't worry, we're going to take a look at his Truth Social post right now. The reported seizures, which came after the U.S. Navy denied dozens of ships access to Iranian ports, made clear that despite the efforts to turn the pause in direct hostilities into lasting peace, neither Iran nor the United States is shying away from trying to exert control over the waterway. Carolyn Leavitt, the White House press secretary, played down the reported ship seizures, telling Fox News that Mr. Trump did not view them as a violation of the ceasefire as efforts to revive peace talks continued. Quote, these were not U.S. ships, end quote. She said these were not Israeli ships, and they were Greek ships. They're going to mention that in a moment. Iranian news media reported that the guards had targeted the 2 cargo vessels, the MSC Francesca and the Epimenidas, whatever that says, a Greek-owned ship, because they did not abide by Iran's recently imposed rules for passing through the strait. Those rules include securing permits for pre-approved routes. MSC, a global shipping company based in Geneva, did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Greece's foreign minister said that the Greek-owned ship had sustained, quote, extremely wide damage, end quote. Tracking data suggested that both ships were now anchored around 8 miles off the Iranian coast. Several Iranian news media outlets reported earlier that the guards had fired on the third cargo ship, the Euphoria. Tracking data showed that vessel stopping multiple times and changing directions abruptly as it passed through the strait. With no clear indication that either Washington or Tehran was willing to back down from its public stances on the strait and other issues, there appeared to be an impasse over the conditions that need to be met before a new round of peace talks. So that's what happened today. Okay, and we can look at the Truth Social post, but take a look at Masoud Pezeshkian, the president of Iran, I believe the 9th elected president, what he said today around noon at 1:47 p.m. So this is his tweet, and he says, let me make that bigger for you guys. He says, the Islamic Republic of Iran has welcomed dialogue and agreement and continues to do so. Breach of commitments, blockade, and threats are main obstacles to genuine negotiations. The world sees your endless hypocritical rhetoric and contradiction between claims and actions. And here's the thing, right? What is Donald Trump telling the Pakistanis? Because, of course, they're mediating the two parties. And what he's telling Truth Social are probably two different things. And this is what I'm saying, and this is kind of the whole piece that I've been telling you guys since last week when I knew these peace talks would eventually reach a second round, in which they were supposed to on Sunday or, again, Tuesday, is that Donald Trump has a big issue here. He has lost the 50-day conflict, effectively. In all regards, he's lost it. You may say that we won militarily, no surprise there, but strategically we got raped, everything like that. I was not supposed to say that on YouTube. And so now you have this situation where he's got to pull out looking tough. And, of course, that calls for him to exercise these actions or these shows of power that will also undermine and bully the IRGC. They're not standing for it. And I told you this earlier. This is the president's tweet, again, echoing the similar or same idea there. So big issues you've got. And, of course, Donald Trump is never silent. He's always going off on Truth Social, but I'll read this because it's a little bit more relevant to the current situation or what I've been talking about. And I'll go into it in a moment. But let's just read what Trump said on Truth Social yesterday at around 4 o'clock. He says, statement of President Donald J. Trump, based on the fact that the government of Iran is seriously fractured, not unexpectedly so, and upon the request of Field Marshal Asim Munir and Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif of Pakistan, we have been asked to hold our attack on the country of Iran until such time as their leaders and representatives can come up with a unified proposal. I have therefore directed our military to continue the blockade and, in all other respects, remain ready and able, and will therefore extend the ceasefire until such time as their proposal is submitted and discussions are concluded one way or the other. President Donald J. Trump. So, you kind of got everything except the ports, buddy. You got to open those up. And what we're doing is doing nothing. All the experts, Robert Pape and everybody else, look, this is going to hurt Iran's economy, no doubt, like duh, but they're still able to sneak ships through regardless of this blockade on their ports. Baltic, thank you so much for the $50. W. Appreciate that, man. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Always showing love, bro. God bless. God bless. Okay, where were we? Oh, yeah. So, yeah, again, we are getting close, but the blockade is stopping all potentiality of this potential peace. And that's what the Iranians said. That's what Mohammad Ghalibaf, the parliament speaker, even said last week. He said that's not going to happen. We can have peace, but you got to open up those ports. And these ports are malicious, right? They're very malicious. The intent of them is one, of course, to make it look like the United States has some sort of upper hand. Of course, it's to appease to the MAGA base, like, we're blocking the strait, we're blocking the ports too, and we're hurting Iran's economy. But really, it's to flex the muscles, and really, it's an attempt to probably hurt the Iranian economy, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it is blocking their imported and exported goods, the most important good being oil. So there's a malicious intent there. Of course, the IRGC knows and sees that. Why would they come and have peace talks when those ports are blocked? Because Iran let up first. Hey, they let up first. Abbas Araghchi and the IRGC as a whole, because they really make the decision under the supreme leader, had said on Friday, the Strait of Hormuz is open. It's open, no stipulations, none else. Certain canals and certain passageways or really kind of strips of the water are really open. right? That's what he had said. I'm not sure what he really meant by that. So it's not open in its entirety like it once was, but oil vessels can pass through. Countries can receive their goods, whatever have you. Now, whether Iran was tolling those ships or not, there's conflicting reports at that time, but it was open. And that is Iran conceding first, right? I mean, the United States did really nothing at that time besides just saying there's a ceasefire and we're not going to continue to attack them. And remember, you have the hot potato with Israel and Lebanon over west. So for Iran, they kind of conceded first and displayed some good faith that, yeah, they would like this conflict to end. And then we blocked their naval ports. So I don't know if, and look, maybe this is a little bit of speculation. I don't know if we are just trying to buy time to attack again. And remember, today is Wednesday, the 22nd. And from the first peace talk, the ceasefire extended all the way up until April the 22nd, which is today. And Donald Trump was asked on the White House lawn, if Iran does not come to a peace talk, what will you do? Or if they don't come to a deal and actually broker this peace, they won't come to the table and agree to your stipulations, well, then what will you do? And he answered the press and he said, well, then we're going to bomb them again. We're going to strike them again. And then on Truth Social just the other day that I went over with my brother on Sunday, he said, we're going to hit their power plants. All of these threats. And now we've reached pretty much the end of that ceasefire. He said the evening of the 22nd is when all bets are off. And if there is no peace deal reached, well, then we will resume this war. So at any moment now, there might be some U.S. aggression. I would not be surprised if that happens. And if there is, we know that this ceasefire was done in bad faith because we have the ability to discharge the Iranians in their aggression and their blockade on the Strait of Hormuz and actually come to the table. And they're willing to concede on some things, especially with the uranium. They are. It's just they will refuse, and of course this makes sense, to remove the uranium from their territory, from their soil, right? And that's what they said. I believe the parliament speaker said this, that no uranium will leave Iranian soil. We can talk about the percentage potentially. We could talk about how it's done, how it's enriched if the IAEA is involved. But in regards to, which is like really supervision and management over the program. But in regards to the uranium leaving, that's not happening. And look, maybe that's a little bit difficult for the MAGA base to come to terms with, or really Trump as a whole. But this is the problem when you lie about why you're starting the war. We're worried about the nukes on paper, right? Front-facingly, that's the whole idea or the premise as to why we're at war. It's the nukes. Iran can't have a dirty bomb. They're this psycho regime. We can't trust them with a nuclear weapon. However, Israel has one, right? But I won't go into that. And sure, that's a decent idea, but it falls flat on its face because they never made a bomb, and they could have. And this is why the MAGA base, or really Donald Trump, depends on Americans and banks on Americans to be stupid. Because he's telling people Iran is trying to make a bomb. No, they're not. They never were. If they were, they would have had one. They have a very capable nuclear program. Iranians and Persians as a whole are very intelligent people. They have been capable of making a very powerful and destructive nuclear weapon for years now. Obviously, they have not, because they've been practicing the strategy of hedging, which is they have everything in front of them to assemble that nuke, but they won't do it. And this is deterrence to guarantee they won't be overthrown as a regime or attacked for no reason. Of course, now that hasn't worked because we attacked them. So now the only other step is to potentially race to a nuke, which in this next 6 months can certainly be a reality. And this is what Robert Pape says. Now we made Iran a potential, or not even potential, a guaranteed nuclear threat at some point. And why am I saying this? Because obviously the United States and U.S. intelligence knows that, despite what Netanyahu may come to Washington or Mar-a-Lago and spew into Trump's ear. And so if we knew that, why are we using that as a basis to attack them? Because that's not the reason. That's just what they bank on you to fall for. The reason is because we want regime change. Why? I mean, I can go into all the real intricacies and details of the matter, but the real reason is because Benjamin Netanyahu has Donald Trump on a leash. That is the only logical conclusion of all of this, right? We knew they had uranium. We knew they were enriching it to 60%, but 90% is weapons grade, and they never went past 60, and they could have. And they've had a religious zealot, the Ayatollah's fatwa, or a religious ruling years ago that said you can't make a nuclear bomb. You can play with it, but you cannot make one. And so we always knew that wasn't the real reason. So now you've got everything else on the table besides the nuke. You've got The missiles program. Okay, but the missiles are mid-range. So they can't get to the United States. They're not intercontinental. So anybody who says, well, the United States can get hit with an Iranian ballistic missile, they're not intercontinental missiles, so they cannot reach us. They're mid-range missiles. The farthest they can go is, I can't remember, but really no much farther than like Europe, or no more farther than the distance of where they are in regards to Europe. Okay, and then what else is the other reason you can list? I suppose the proxies. You've got Hezbollah, you've got Hamas, you've got the Houthis. And what does Pete Hegseth say? What does the Pentagon say? What is all, or not really the Pentagon, but what does Pete Hegseth say out of the Pentagon? Sorry. Or all of these MAGA warmongers say, well, they shout death to America. They can shout whatever they want. They never posed a threat to the United States. And then they say they've got Iranian sleeper cells and all of these things. And yeah, maybe not. But what's going to activate those sleeper cells better than a war for no reason, out of nowhere, jointed with Israel, right? So we're doing everything to actually poke the bear and hit the iron when it's not hot. So again, I've listed out all these reasons. Now, this would leave a logical person confused. Wait, well then why are we at war? The proxies are not a direct threat to us. The missiles are not a direct threat to us. The nuclear program is not a direct threat to us because they were not even going to make one. Despite the sanctions and the fact that we killed other leaders, they still weren't going to make one. But then, of course, Israel is victim to the threat of those proxies. Israel is victim to the threat of those missiles. And Israel, if a nuclear bomb is made, is threat to the possibility of a nuclear weapon. Okay? They are subject to that. They are victim to that threat. So, it doesn't take a rocket scientist here or an Iranian nuclear scientist, right, to kind of come to the conclusion that this is all for Benjamin Netanyahu. And I don't know what he told Trump. I just did the whole kind of impersonation there earlier, but whatever he told him was enough. And look, Jared Kushner and all of Trump's right-hand men are very deeply tied and embedded with Benjamin Netanyahu. So there's no secret there. There's no secret that he's got ties in Washington. He came to Congress after Barack Obama had launched that nuclear deal, and he unbinded it. He got Congress on his side. They lobbied for Trump. They got him in office. He destroyed the JCPOA, and he started this shadow war, this Cold War with Iran that eventually led to the physical one that I did not see coming. I didn't know he would really do that. So I thought he would hold it off just like every other president has, but no, he went the extra mile. And this is what Donald Trump had actually said about that JCPOA or that deal. So he says this the other day. I'm not sure when he actually put this on Truth Social. Maybe it was on the 20th, so just a few days ago. And you gotta love this. Get a load of this, right? Let me make this a little bit smaller so you guys are able to read everything. And I'm really getting sick and tired of reading his Truth Social posts because they're just mouthfuls. But we'll read it for the hell of it. And then we'll get into some other stuff. But Donald Trump says on Truth Social on the 20th, he says, the deal that we are making with Iran will be far better than the JCPOA, commonly referred to as the Iranian nuclear deal penned by Barack Hussein Obama and sleepy Joe Biden. One of the worst deals ever made having to do with security of our country. It was guaranteed road to a nuclear weapon, which will not and cannot happen with the deal we're working on. They actually gave $1.7 billion in green cash loaded into a Boeing 757 and flown into Iran for Iranian leadership to spend any way they saw fit. Yeah, that was Iranians' money. That was their money. We gave it back to them. We froze it. We have the ability to do that. He emptied out all the cash from banks in D.C., Virginia, and Maryland. Those bankers said they've never seen anything like it before. In addition, hundreds of billions of dollars were paid to Iran. If I did not terminate that, quote, deal, nuclear weapons would have been used on Israel and all over the Middle East, including our cherished U.S. military bases. Okay, well, they used the missiles anyway and destroyed them all. So that blew up in your face. The fake news, like lightweight Washington Post journalist David Ignatius, loves to talk about the JCPOA, knowing that it was dangerous and a complete embarrassment to our country. If a deal happens under Trump, it will guarantee peace, security, and safety, not only for Israel and the Middle East, but for Europe, America, and everywhere else. It will be something that the entire world will be proud of instead of the years of embarrassment and humiliation that we have been forced to suffer due to incompetent and cowardly leadership, President Donald J. Trump. Hey, maybe you're talking about yourself. And we all know, I don't mean to glaze Obama because I do potentially give a little bit of Obama glaze. And, it's times like this, I'll be honest, and this might get me in trouble here. I'll be honest. you do kind of get tired of like the lack of professionalism. You do kind of get tired of the misinformation. The JCPOA was a phenomenal deal, top to bottom. It limited the enrichment of uranium from 60% to 3%. Enough for just power plants and anything else like that, but not enough for destructive nuclear weapons that can inflict harm upon human beings. Obama knocked that out the park. As well as the fact that we got every other country in the world, really, not even in the region, on board. China, Russia, the EU, were all on board for this deal. It halted the enrichment of uranium, brought it down to a level that would never have to worry anybody in the West, or even Israel for that matter. And of course, we lifted sanctions and gave them a lot of their money back. And the IAEA went to inspect these nuclear facilities. I think we fractured the locations of where this enriched uranium was taking place, or this uranium was being enriched at. And it was perfect. And this was the first step after so many years of a Cold War, really, with Iran, to finally create diplomacy. Maybe we could involve ourselves in the Strait of Hormuz and find some sort of benefit, right? Maybe we could do diplomacy with Iran and take advantage of their oil, because they have a large pile of oil as well, and then get them to work with these Gulf countries. And we could have made the Middle East so much stronger, so much safer, because of course Iran is the oddball out. Iran has been a rogue nation to the world for many, many years. They've had beef with Saudi Arabia. Recently, it's kind of healed in some weird, odd way, right? They have not been as strong as adversaries recently as they were in the past, but we could have brought Iran to the light. And of course, all of the Iranians beg for this, right? They say, well, we're tired of the Ayatollah and they're a vicious regime. And obviously, look, the IRGC is not innocent, but if sanctions are lifted off of the Iranian government, well, then there's no choice but for the middle class to actually embellish and prosper, as well as the fact that people would be so much more satisfied with the nation. And then, of course, the United States can maybe nanny Iran and baby them into a little bit more of a front-facingly democratic country or something like that. However, that never really works in the Middle East. And look, they have a democratic side to their country as well. Masoud Pezeshkian is the elected president, but they have the IRGC side as well. But that strong religious zealot, dictator, authoritarian style of running the country is needed because of the fact that, of course, Israel is constantly trying to undermine them. And I'll get into that in a moment. But this could have been the first step for peace in the Middle East, one that no president was able to achieve without him. So, and then they try to make lies. I saw some guy on Patrick Bet-David's show the other day, don't know his name, don't care to know his name. He says, well, the problem with the JCPOA is that they weren't actually following the directions of the IAEA. Yeah, they were. In several statements, the IAEA had came out and said Iran was actually super compliant and easy to work with, and they followed all of our rules and regulations that we imposed upon them per that deal and its rules. And these are the lies that they have to go to in order to sell you the idea that Donald Trump did something good by tarnishing that deal. But out of all the things Donald Trump has ever done, one of the worst things, or I'd say at this point, honestly, now that we're in our present time where we're 50 days into this conflict, right? Hindsight is always 2020. The worst decision he ever made was tarnishing that deal with Iran, the Iranian nuclear deal, without a doubt. Because look where it has gotten us. And so now he's saying, well, we're going to do another deal and it's going to be better. It's going to be after 3,500 dead people, after destroying a lot of their missile launchers, after destroying a lot of their military, after killing their leader. You think you're going to get a better deal than Obama did peacefully? Are you insane? And this is what I say when I say either this ceasefire is for us to kind of recollect ourselves and come at this war from a different angle, or Trump is actually losing his mind. And honestly, both of these things are not mutually exclusive. They probably are actually true of both. But really, that's the problem. And, you know, what is the whole crux with this argument against the IRGC? Well, the IRGC is this terrorist organization. And look, I will not ever shy from the fact in admitting that they are a brutal regime, but it's necessary. And the reason why is because you've got Israel right next door. I don't know if you know, but I know. Do you really understand, or have you been able to come to terms and grasp the history of how effective Israel is at overthrowing governments? Like, during those protests in the beginning of the year, where 45,000 people were allegedly killed. By the way, the number was 30,000 just a couple months ago. Now it's 45,000. And Israel and the United States were buying to this idea that, oh, the Iranian people are taking back and they're finally standing up to this government and they're going to reach the Shah light again and it's going to be the Shah regime all over again. And then you got people in the United States echoing the same thing, like the stupid Persian Iranians, the secular ones in LA, and Patrick Bet-David. The Iranian regime would likely not have to be nearly as brutal if it wasn't for the threat of Israel always trying to destroy their nation and overthrow their government. You could argue that if the IRGC was not as brutal as it currently is, Iran may have easily been overthrown many, many years ago. And so now somebody's going to clip that and go, you're justifying the actions that they did? No, I'm not. I'm just saying Israel created the issue it's complaining about, and that's what they do. And then the United States weaponizes that to attack that region. And this is a never-ending cycle. And if you don't call it out, even though people are going to attack me for quote-unquote taking Iran's side, well, then we will never correct this issue. You've got to call it out first. That's kind of the first step. And so, we've got Mossad agents inside of these protests trying to exacerbate the issue and launch this revolution, this coup d'etat, whatever it is. And we've done this historically in South America, and this is a U.S. tactic as well. And so there was CIA involved. But Riyadh, how do you know that? It was tweeted by Mike Pompeo, the former director of CIA. He said there's a Mossad agent that walks alongside every single protester. And Israeli media had no shame in admitting this, and that's why the whole Starlink situation had gotten to where it was. It was because the IRGC knew exactly what was happening, and they shut that shit down. That's why they brutally cracked down and did kill a lot of people. It was for the greater purpose of shutting down the U.S.-Israeli joint operation and overthrowing the government via a revolution, something that they've historically done in several Arab countries many times before. After the Intifada and the Arab Spring and everything like that, this is something that we've always tried to do. And look, it's just evident at this point. Regime change in the Middle East doesn't work. From the air, from the ground, it just doesn't work. Because even if we get rid of the regime, now we fracture the country. And now there's several different factions fighting for power and more people die. Do you need any more of a greater example than Iraq? So that's why the IRGC is as brutal as it is. I see all these people going, but the IRGC, Israel is the primary reason why the IRGC has to be the way they are. That's what it is. If you want to oppose the United States because of the fact that they militarily support Israel, so pretty much oppose Israel, well then you better create a brutal regime that cracks down on any attempt to overthrow you. And you better make sure your country is locked down as well. Because if it's not, well then the Mossad will finagle in and figure out a way to undermine that complete existence of your power structure. And that's what they've had to do. That's why Hezbollah exists. That's why the axis of resistance exists. That's why Hamas exists. That's why the Houthis exist. That's why all of these other factions in Iraq, the mobilization forces, also exist. All a part of course, the IRGC's proxy network, this complicated proxy network, this resistance group, whatever, is because of the fact that if they don't, well then it's bye-bye Iran. It's bye-bye the IRGC. It's bye-bye Persia. That's why they're called the axis of resistance. All throughout the region, Iran has its influence, and it's for the greater good of protecting their own country. And at the same time, effectively, whether they meant it or not, I know there's arguments about this internally within the Islamic community, protecting Gaza. Who's to say maybe Israel would have been successful in just completely ethnically cleansing the Strip if it wasn't for Hamas? So that's really the issue. And that's why Israel is hell-bent on removing that influence. Because if that goes, the region is wide open. It's an open street. And they can go down that street at whatever speed they'd like. They don't got to worry. And they also don't got to call on Big Bro in the West to help them, that being the United States, us. And if that's not the case, if we don't have to help them, well, then what happens? What happens when the little brother that hates the big brother gets stronger than the big brother? Well, then he's not going to need him anymore, and he may actually whoop his ass. So, and people say, you're conspiratorial and you're crazy. All right, well, I just pay attention to history, and I'm recognizing the pattern that is ongoing and has been ongoing forever. And every single year, every single decade that passes us, Israel seems to gain more influence. They seem to get stronger. And with that influence and that strength, they hurt us more and more and more. This war being a prime example. Because look at how our economy is suffering. Have you been to the gas pump recently? I'm sure you weren't happy about that final price. Have you gotten groceries? Have you gotten goods recently? I'm sure you weren't happy. That's Israel. That's not us. That's Israel. So what's the case when they no longer need us, right? What does that look like? When they no longer need us, all they need to do now is exploit us for what we have and not depend on us for defense. Because as long as they depend on us for defense, well, then we can flex our muscles in the Middle East. And we can kind of tip our finger on the scale and choose either side and mediate the problem. And you always have power when that's your position. But if we don't have that ability to kind of step in and draw a line between two fighting sides and go, this is what's going to happen like Obama did, well, then forget about it. It's all over. It's said and done with. Because it may be a small country, but they got a ton of power and a ton of influence. And they are very smart. You know? So let's see here. Super chats, and then we'll get into some other stuff very quickly. Like the video, please, if you have not already. Appreciate the love. Thodic, thank you again for the super chat. It's Tio says, Dan Bilzerian made a good point. Most places the West toppled usually comes out worse. And also, if we are worried about bad guys having nuclear weapons, why haven't we attacked North Korea? Yeah, it's very simple questions. Very, very simple questions that, of course, a lot of the MAGA base refuses to try and answer. So, you know, what are you going to do? And now the Secretary of the Navy stepped down. Joe Kent has been gone. You got this whole thing, man. You got this whole situation. And here's another issue. And we're going to get into a video right now that kind of puts this all together for you. Israel understands that they're losing so much influence in the United States. They are. Really from the populist base and the youth primarily. And this is an issue that no other than Charlie Kirk noticed right away. If you don't remember, when Charlie Kirk would go to these college campuses and table TPUSA and bring out thousands of students, one of the main questions that always kind of struck him a wrong way or always kind of gave him a hard time, he was never able to answer, was the question of Israel, all the stuff about 9/11, whatever. But you could see that his responses to the influence of Israel in the United States and how it benefits us and our partnership was one that kind of stifled him more than others, was one that made it a little bit more difficult for him to sound as fluid or intelligent. And of course, it's hard to fight against the lie. And that was the case with Charlie Kirk, unfortunately. And so, you know, before he was assassinated, he actually let out a letter to Benjamin Netanyahu, and he said that we're losing the media war. You know, he said, listen, Prime Minister, we are losing this media war. We're losing influence. We are losing the youth. And the youth, of course, is the future. You've got to buy back the media. You've got to assert your influence. Because as long as the pro-Palestinian base or the liberals or the left or the Muslims or anybody else who's in support of Palestine has influence on the media, well, then they're always going to make you look bad because they have more of that voice. And their voice is overshadowing yours online. You're losing online. You're looking worse. And of course, we know the honest reason to that is because the truth hits a lot harder than a lie does. And when you see dead children, it doesn't take much convincing to think the other way. But regardless, you know, Benjamin Netanyahu took this into account. And now look what's happened today. I mean, his letter actually worked. TikTok, Paramount, everything else. They are starting to buy back control again. They are starting to make sure that there is no pro-Palestinian rhetoric or sentiment that's ever expressed online in a way where they can't combat it with their own idea of flooding it with AIs and bots or really just countering it by censoring it like they always have or whatever it is. And, you know, Kirk had noted this to Benjamin Netanyahu. And so I think that that set the clock for the Israelis to go, we don't have much time left with the U.S. in utilizing their power for our own good. You know, the clock has now officially begun to tick. And if we don't strike Iran and we don't do it soon, well, we're going to have bigger issues within a matter of a decade, which is that of no U.S. support, no U.S. base, everything like that. So now you got Israel attacking Iran in that 12-day war in the summer. And what that did was kind of open the floodgates because, like I said before, Iran was hedging this nuclear weapon. They were not going to really create a bomb. Everybody knows that. But then, of course, we strike them. Prior to us striking them, Israel strikes them. 12-day war happens. They get bombed to hell. Iran flexes, and I don't think they wanted to. They show they have a legitimate missiles program capable of destroying Israel and leveling it to the ground. And so now you have this situation where the United States has to get involved because they're actually losing militarily against Iran. We strike Natanz, Fordo, Isfahan, whatever. We pull back their missiles program. We pull back their nuclear program, actually primarily, their nuclear program. A few years or a few months, Trump says, quote unquote, we obliterated their nuclear program for the foreseeable future. And what better time for Iran to race towards a nuke than at that time? Because now they know they're under threat. Now Israel and the United States have now broken this barrier of strikes. They've made the war from a shadow one to a physical one. They've kind of graduated the war from shadow to physical. And so now the idea of creating a nuke is legitimate. But that's something that we started, again, kind of poking the bear effect that you always see with Israel historically. And that was done, of course, intentionally because they knew the whole Palestine thing, October 7th, was making them look worse and worse. And it was a matter of time until they lost that U.S.-based support. And I'm going to show you a video now proving it from CNN. And of course, everybody knows that, right? Voices with tons of influence have come out and explained these things in great detail. But it really doesn't take a scientist or somebody who's super woke to understand this. It did in a way before October 7th, but now it's in your face. Now it doesn't take much digging. So, that's the whole real issue there is I think Israel is trying to push the mark. I think they are trying to speed up the process because they know that the time with U.S. military support could be short-lived. It may actually not be permanent. It may actually have a cap on it. And they want to make sure they can reach a lot of their goals, or at least set up the Middle East for a situation where they can reach their goals alone without the United States in a timely manner, because that time is really running out. And I know that because, of course, it's obvious with everything we've been seeing recently, but even people like Charlie Kirk, the strongest Christian Zionist that really existed in our modern time, even expressed the fact that Israel is losing influence fast. So, really quick. Desert Joe, thank you so much for the 5 gifted. Shout out to you. We love Desert Joe. We love Desert Joe. W's in the chat for Desert Joe. Thank you so much, man. God bless you. Key got back. Welcome to the membership. Welcome. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Shout out to you guys. We love Desert Joe. All right. If you got a membership, tell him thank you in the chat. All right, so let's take a look at this video. All right. And this is going to touch on everything I kind of just explained to you guys.
Running all the numbers.
Oops. And actually, I'll let this play. I'm going to quickly get some water, but go ahead and watch this.
On Israel's U.S. popularity problem. Israel is losing support here in the United States, even amongst Republicans. Take a look at this data. Take a look at this data amongst young Republicans. Look at this massive shift that we have had over just the last 4 years, the net favorability of Israel among Republicans under the age of 50. You go back to 2022, 2 thumbs up. 2 thumbs up for Israel amongst young Republicans. But by 2025, look at this. Already a 30-point shift away. Their net favorability down to -2. Today, look at this. Minus 16 points. That's an over 40-point shift in just 1, 2, 3, 4 years' time away from Israel amongst young Republicans. But that's not the only part of the Republican base where Israel is struggling. How about amongst moderate or liberal Republicans? They make up about a third of the Republican base at this point in time. The net favorability of Israel with moderate liberal Republicans back in 2022, again, 2 thumbs up. You'll notice I do a lot of Siskel and Ebert references. I just really like them. At plus 26 points. Today, again, negative territory, -9 points. That's a 35-point shift in just 4 years' time, with moderate liberal Republicans shifting away from Israel. And this, to me, gives you a good indication of why one of the more ardent critics of Israel within the Republican Party is actually, at this point, favored to win a competitive primary. You may know him, Thomas Massie. He, of course, is the representative from Kentucky's 4th District. He has been opposed by Donald Trump. Donald Trump has endorsed his opponent. Pro-Israel voices are also opposed. Many of them have also opposed Thomas Massie. But at this point, look at this. His chance of being the Republican nominee, winning that Republican primary in Kentucky's 4th District is...
Abdul Wahab, shout out to you. Welcome to the group, man. Appreciate it, bro. Shout out to you.
Is actually more likely than not to occur. Look.
Oh, and Key got back. Welcome. I think I told you that. If I didn't, I said it twice now. Shout out to you guys.
At this, according to the Kalshi prediction market at this point, a 71% chance. But here's the thing. Again, I'm building blocks here. It's not just on the right. It's not just amongst Republicans where Israel is losing support amongst the unexpected places. How about among younger men who were a key part of Donald John Trump's coalition back in 2024? They have very much shifted away from Israel. Look at this. Net favorability of Israel among men under the age of 50. In 2022, not too bad, but not too hot to trot either at -3 points. By 2025, again, down we go, minus 22 points. That is a 19-point shift in just 3 years' time. But it gets even worse. Look at this for Israel. Minus 47 points. That's a 44-point shift away from Israel on the net favorability.
And look, we know polls don't mean the most in the world these days, but this is all true. You know, this is all parallel to the truth.
Amongst young men who, of course, shift.
Abdul Wahab, it says that you can't chat? That's weird. I'm not sure why it's not letting you super chat in. That's really odd. I appreciate the support regardless, man. Not sure.
Massively into the Republican column back in 2024, and they have been shifting away from Israel over the last 4 years. But here's the thing. You want to talk about unexpected? Perhaps no number I have seen is more unexpected than this one. Because when we talk about the Democratic base, right, and we talk about them being against Israel, that's been true amongst liberal and very liberal Democrats for a decent period of time. Democrats, the net favor of Israel, down into the Sea of Galilee at minus 55 points.
Yeah, Democrats ain't going for Israel anymore. And this is really the scary part. What does that mean for 2026 in November, right, midterms? And then what does that mean for 2028? What did Gavin Newsom say at the outset of this war? He said, I don't know why we started this war. And he kind of ripped on the whole idea of supporting Israel for no reason in the Middle East. So now we're seeing this kind of like America first, pro-America rhetoric from the left. And whether it's honest or it's in bad faith just to win positions and win over turn over seats in the House or win the presidency as a whole, it's still problematic if you are on the right, you know, and this is a very surefire way they can take control. I mean, what easier thing to attack in regards to Trump's policy than this senseless war he started? And of course, you know, you may wonder, oh, okay, well, Israel's losing favor because of the war in Gaza. Israel is losing favor because of the fact that it's pretty obvious they brought us to this war in Iran. But it's also shit like this that they've been doing historically. Did you see this? Did you see this? This is an IDF soldier desecrating a statue of Jesus. This is in southern Lebanon, I believe. IDF confirms a soldier smashed a Jesus statue, wholly inconsistent with values of troops. Now we know it's not wholly inconsistent with the value of the troops. Matter of fact, it's perfectly in line with the thought process of a lot of these soldiers, but regardless. Continues on here, and it says from their statement, at least the IDF, they have no intentions of harming civilian infrastructure or religious symbols. That's got to be a joke. How many churches have they destroyed in Gaza? How many mosques? How many innocent civilians? And this is the thing with the IDF. The IDF actually has no ability on the ground. In Gaza, they actually were kind of struggling against Hamas on the ground. In southern Lebanon, they are getting the shit kicked out of them by Hezbollah, and we know that. And their death count, I think, is above 2,000 at this point, if I'm not mistaken. It's super high. And so for them, the last resort, or really the first resort, because it always has kind of been the first resort historically, is killing civilians. And that's what they're good at doing. That's what they've been doing. You know? And so they say they have no intention of harming civilian infrastructure. That's all you did in Gaza. And then you said, human shield, human shield, human shield. You know, you can't launch a 26-month bombing campaign where you're killing thousands of innocent people and every time say, human shield. That isn't going to get far. And it has not gotten you far to try and defend this soldier. So they actually had a direct tweet about this in a response. And this is what I'm saying. 5 or 6 years ago, or 10 years ago, if this image surfaced online, there would be no panic or really mass effort from Israel or Israeli media or anything like that to condemn this action from Netanyahu, from the Mossad, whatever, whoever you want to reference from Israel that has influence, there would be no mass effort to condemn such an action because Israel was never losing the media war. This is disingenuous. Obviously, they're only condemning this action because the wire's thin at this point, and the ice is running thin. Their credibility is running thin. Their perception and who they actually are now and what position or role they play in the Middle East is becoming obvious. And the mirror that was, or really the glass of transparency, or the glass that they were on the other side of that was once foggy, is now becoming increasingly clear as we go to war in Iran and the issue of West Bank comes about and Donald Trump doesn't do anything about the West Bank, but Barack Obama actually condemned them. And, you got the issue, of course, in Gaza. That's the biggest one. And so the only reason that they're scrambling to try and defend this is because of the fact that they are losing popularity real time, and they're trying to hold on to it as desperately as they can until they can string all of the juice out of the United States as much as they can. They milk us dry, and then from there, it doesn't matter how you perceive them. But until then, until they've actually completely lost U.S. base or U.S. support, they will do everything they can to hold on to it for as long as they can. And this is obviously an attempt at that. If they lose the entire U.S. base, which, by the way, for a large part of the youth, that's already happened. But if they lose the older folks as well, then it's a matter of time until we get a Mamdani or James Fishback-like figure in the Oval Office. That's a fact. That's the way it's going to work. Of course, the pendulum swings in every direction every so often and every few generations. And so the Overton window has completely moved. Now there's a serious reality that the United States may actually become this America First country with an America First power structure that does not prioritize support of Israel. Now, look, that is nowhere near our future, I'll be honest with you. Maybe like 15, 20 years, that could be the case because they're so deeply embedded. But, in the grand scheme of things, that's not a long time. So, of course, Israel is very quick to condemn such actions that can ruin their public image or tarnish it more than it has already been tarnished, of course. I mean, if dead children wasn't enough, I guess it wasn't enough for a lot of the U.S. base. Shame on these Americans, right? But this is what they said on Twitter. So, and this is comical. If you're privy to the IDF and what they've done and their war crimes, this is comical. But I'll read it anyways. It says, following the completion of initial examination regarding a photograph published earlier today of an IDF soldier harming a Christian symbol, it was determined that the photograph depicts an IDF soldier operating in southern Lebanon. The IDF used the incident with great severity and emphasizes that the soldier's conduct is wholly inconsistent with the values expected of its troops. The incident is being investigated by the Northern Command and is currently being addressed through the chain of command. Appropriate measures will be taken against those who involved in accordance with the findings. Furthermore, the IDF is working to assist the community and restoring the statue to its place. The IDF is operating to dismantle the terrorist infrastructure established by Hezbollah in southern Lebanon and has no intention of harming civilian infrastructure, including religious buildings or religious symbols. Are you serious? This can't be more of a joke. This cannot be more of a joke. And, this is what it is. This is what it's come to now. Now they're condemning actions like this, but then they just carpet bomb the shit out of southern Lebanon and say nothing about it. So whatever is, and the only reason, guys, that the IDF actually came out and made a statement against this photo was because this photo was actually catching a lot of traction inside of U.S. media. A lot of news outlets were reporting about it. It kind of hit mainstream Twitter. It wasn't just on like that subsection of politics Twitter. It hit mainstream Twitter. And so, of course, they had to kind of say something there. But if it didn't receive that condemnation or it didn't receive that level of attention, well, then you can guarantee in return there would be no condemnation against the soldier. And I think his punishment was released. It's something like, 30 days in military detention, some bullshit, right? The guy should be completely relieved of his duties, but of course, they're just not going to do that. They're not going to go there. So it's like put up or shut up if you're really going to act like the moral compass. But yeah, I mean, this is them blowing up a school in southern Lebanon, right?
Is that?
But don't worry, they don't like to bomb civilian infrastructure whatsoever.
Wow.
And look at the worldwide ripple effect. Look at the ripple effect around the area. And this is constant with them. This is every other day in southern Lebanon. Despite the ceasefire, these are the things that they do. You know? So we don't like to destroy civilian infrastructure. And what's the excuse going to be when someone asks, why was that school destroyed? Oh, well, there was Hezbollah there. There was Hezbollah there. You know? It's like you can't fight them on the ground, so you got to carpet bomb the entire area. And it gets to a point. Let's see. Downtown Riyadh, have you seen how the president of Argentina was acting when he met Netanyahu? This timeline we're in is such a shit show. Yeah, Argentina is deeply in bed with Israel. No surprise there. Thank you so much. Abdul Wahab, there you are, my friend. Shout out to you. I did a dope interview with your brother Sunday on my page. Check it out if you get a chance. W Photo Boys. Shout out to you, bro. Appreciate the love. I'll go ahead and check it out. All right, let's see. Abdul Wahab, thank you so much. I guess I let you chat in, right? No issues now? All right, let's see this clip. I thought this was funny. I didn't really get to watch it, but I just saw the caption. I said, yeah, I got to pull this up on stream.
I'm going to...
And this is like Dinesh. Who's in your pockets, bro? This is Dinesh D'Souza, right-wing commentator, been in the game forever. And he just debated my brother the other day on the Iranian conflict. Go check it out on his channel if you haven't.
I'm going to talk about the Epstein files, and I'm going to make the case that even though there are unanswered questions about Epstein, it is in fact time to move on.
Come on, bro. Come on, bro. This is what they want. This is what the Zionist base wants. They want everybody to forget about this, you know? And so trust nobody who tries to brush this whole Epstein scandal under the rug. This stuff needs to be addressed. And all those involved ultimately need to be persecuted by the DOJ. They need to be met with the consequences. That's why previously the response was just not satisfactory for me. Look, we can all get our panties in a bunch about the fact that, you know, these things happen. And look, those things are all sick when you look through the files and you look through the findings and everything like that. But the real issue is that there was no real prosecution of the people involved in the conflict. And that's what really needs to be spoken about. That's what needs to be echoed. Right? At the end of the day, we can demonize these people all we want. Are we actually going to prosecute them? You know, and of course, when Trump's in office, the answer is likely no. But that could be short-lived, you know? Yeah, man, you got to love Dinesh. We could actually take a quick look at his debate with my brother. But that's really all of the Iran stuff currently. There's no other updates. But, you know, to kind of tie everything together here, I read the article earlier, so if you didn't see it, go ahead and scrub back. But, yeah, it seems like Donald Trump is telling Truth Social one thing, he's telling Pakistan the other. We've completely lost escalation dominance. As long as we block these Iranian ports, well, then the Strait of Hormuz will not be opened, and Iran will actually not come to the table about peace or delegating a peace talk at all until we let go of those ports and stop blocking them, because there's a malicious intent behind the blockade of those ports to completely stifle their economic growth or their economic stabilization or stability. So yeah, we'll see what happens, but Donald Trump has got to make the first move. However, there could be strikes from the United States and Israel on Iran any moment now, because that alleged ceasefire is now up. It's up, and all bets are off now at this point. Iran has attacked 2 ships today. Of course, Donald Trump has not voiced the fact that that broke the ceasefire, but we will see. And to me, that's a good sign, because if Donald Trump didn't say, hey, that broke the ceasefire, I don't think he'll actually strike back maybe. Because if he wanted to strike back, what better of an opportunity would there have been than for him to actually weaponize that against them and say, we're going to strike back now because of what they did and we're going to restart this war? I don't know. Maybe he's just lying like he always has been lying. So you really got to take his Truth Social posts and honestly the news at this point with a grain of salt. But we'll get into... I had my clipper or my editor, Halimi, send me this video. And it's this like Muslim girl, but she's a feminist. And bro, we're really losing the girls, bro. You know, I said this the other day, but I kind of refrained from this topic because, you know, still in the Matrix and everything. But I said it's not the fact that your girl is going, you know, and I'm segueing here. So for all the news nerds, I'm sorry, but it's not the fact that your girl is going. It's really just the fact that society is guaranteed to corrupt her, you know? So let's take a quick look at this. I'll pull this up very quickly. While I'm doing that, like the video, folks. All right, let's see. All right, so look at this. I didn't even watch this in full, but this is some Muslim girl. And even if you're a Christian, you're about to be like, what the hell? So let's just go ahead and take a look. This went viral, I think really like on Muslim Twitter. But it says, why is feminism just another kufri ideology? Kufr means disbelief. I give you exhibit A, snippet of her rant. And yes, she filmed this rant in the restroom. But let's see what she says here. Let's see what takes her out of the religion in regards to her statements.
If I had...
Let me turn that up for you. I saw like the first 10 seconds and I was like, oh, hell no, I got to react to this.
...internalized Allah as she all my life, I don't think I would have the level of religious trauma that I have. I think that would heal something so deep inside me, honestly.
Hello. I'll play it again because she's got a bit of an accent here. These UK niggas. But what are we doing? Take a listen.
If I had internalized Allah as she all my life, I don't think I would have the level of religious trauma that I have.
Oh my God.
I think that would heal something so deep inside me, honestly. Thinking of Allah as feminine, for Allah's feminine qualities.
Stuck for Allah, bro.
Haram!
Why is it so blasphemous if we called Allah she? Because it wouldn't mean that we're calling Allah a woman.
Yo, she has a hijab on, bro. You're gonna say shit like this? Please just take it off. Oh, but two wrongs don't make a right. I don't know, bro. When one wrong is this extreme, just do the other wrong. This is grounds for removal from the religion. You are taking yourself outside of the faith when you say shit like this. God should be a she because that makes me feel better. What the fuck? Bro, this is mega haram. And even if you're a Christian, obviously God's pronoun in the Bible, right, is he. Or in the Old Testament, the Hebrew Bible, whatever it is, right? God is always referred to as a he. And she's thinking there's this like human biological aspect to it. Now, of course, if you're Christian, you have Jesus Christ. He was actually a man, right? But ultimately, there is no she when it comes to God. And the fact that we even need to have this conversation, this is like defeating atheism 101. Like, are we dead ass? Like, what are you going to say next? Oh, if God was good, then why did he command? Like, shut the fuck up. Like, this is just ridiculous. You know, and this is the problem now. I don't know what's going on in the UK. Demand you guys got problems. Okay, I don't know if this is common in the UK, but, you know, this is an actual issue. And I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I do think this deserves some sort of statement or response. And so I will address it. You know, feminism has now infiltrated Islam. It really has. And I know everybody's saying, well, Islam is the last leg standing, and Islam. And, you know, you had Tate when he converted, he said that Islam stands up to degeneracy a lot better than Christianity does. And so there's truth to that, obviously, right? Like Muslims kind of stand on business a lot more. They're a lot more jealous in their religion. They seem to follow their religion a little bit more closely than other religions for the most part. But really, Islam is infiltrated as well. We're cooked. And the reason why is because you think that this girl has a individual ideology. You think that no one else is going to agree with her rhetoric. No, actually there's millions, of Muslim. I've seen it. Ever since COVID, it's gotten worse. Millions of Muslim girls who have this mindset. Now, whether it's specifically the fact that God is a girl, which is just, God forgive me for even saying such a disgusting statement, or whatever it is, really, it's this like empowerment. And this is what I say when I'm saying feminism is really destroying, like, women think that it's actually doing something for them. it is destroying you. Why? Because this is a visa pass to hell. This is a first class ticket, Amtrak to hell. You know, you want to guarantee you're going to hell? Start playing with God's pronouns like this. But this is how far this rotting idea has infiltrated Islam and this religion that we hold so close to home, or even Christians. And man, I've got to be careful here, but it's like, you know, you call guys misogynistic for saying, I don't want my girl to have a phone. I don't want my daughter to have a phone. I don't want my daughter to actually go to public school. She'll be homeschooled. These are the type of ideologies that can easily infiltrate her mind if she is online for an extended period of time, or she's around people who even have a similar rhetoric to that of what we're watching right now. And we'll finish the video in a moment. It's not even over yet, and I'm still yapping this much because of how blasphemous it's been thus far. But, you know, really, this is growing, you know, and I don't know if there's really any antidote. The last antidote to this was like Tate when he went viral, and then men low-key took over the world for like a year. But dude, it's over. You know, feminism has got men by a death grip, unfortunately. And I know that, excuse me. I know that because how many guys now cuck for girls? You know, how many guys are like, I see these TikToks and bro, I see these TikToks and the girl will be like, okay, like pick me up. And then he'll pick her up and then like she'll lift his chin. And it's some trick where like he can't pick her up anymore. I don't know, if you're not on TikTok, you may not have seen it. Anyways, the whole idea is to kind of like humiliate the guy in a way. Because they go and post that, and then all the girls in the comments are like, ooh, he's weak. Ooh, girl, like, got him. Like, I bet his ego is hurt. And it's like, what are we doing? And the bigger issue here is not even that the girls are doing it, because there's no surprise there. It's that the guys are on board with this shit. And it's like, gang, stand up for yourself. Hey, nigga, fight back. What are you doing? What the fuck are you doing? And this is like an ongoing issue. This is an ongoing issue. Look everywhere. Guys are now feminizing themselves to appease to women. And birth control makes women like more feminine men. Did you know that? There's studies on that. Women are attracted to more feminine features within men when they're on birth control. Now, who created birth control? Just kidding. I'm just kidding. We're on YouTube. But seriously, this is like an issue, you know? And I'm showing you a Muslim girl because, hey, bro, if it's hitting Islam, nigga, you're cooked. You know? Everybody talks about, but look at these Afghanis, look at the Taliban. Bro, we're losing the girls, bro. Okay? We're losing them. Like, she should be in prison for saying this shit.
Same way when we say he, we're not calling Allah a man, right? No. The reason if someone refers to Allah as she, it's, oh my God, how dare you? It's because we have internalized Allah as a man. We have internalized Allah as masculine.
No, that's just not the case. Where in the Quran does Allah say he's a man? What the fuck are you talking about? And this is the case for Islam. Of course, in Christianity, you know, it's a little bit more complicated. You have God the Father not being a human. Then you have Christ, that's a human, that's a man. But we're talking about Islam here. And I guess actually this would make a Christian more mad because God is actually a man in your religion. But regardless, the case we're making here is that in Islam, Allah is not a man, Allah is a deity. That's how he refers to himself. He describes himself many times in the Quran, never any time coming close to the description of a man. And some people may say, oh, but God anthropomizes himself. He says he has a shin and a hand and a... Yeah, but he also says that he's unlike anything that we know. And what do we know? Each other, that being human beings. So, and this is going to go into some whole like men created the Bible, men created the Quran so that they can control women. It's like, hey, nigga, no, like men are actually the leaders, women are the subordinates. That's just kind of how the world has always worked until like 10 seconds ago. So
that's why it feels so wrong to say she. Anyways, yeah, he is not a gender neutral term in English, and we speak English, and I want to break this. I don't want to keep internalizing Allah as masculine. I don't want my child.
Well, then you're not a Muslim. You are a disbeliever. And I'm not saying I'm going to say that to you. I'm not making takfir on you, but like, you know, you go up to any qualified Muslim, a sheikh, an imam, a scholar, and you say God is a girl, they will say you are not a Muslim, nigga.
Haram!
What kind of blasphemy is this? And here's the thing. She's not saying this in like a dorm room with her friends, right? She said she actually thought, let me set up the phone, right? Like how I'm talking to you now. She's like, let me set up the phone and say this to a camera. Someone said, Abdul, get the rocks. That's good. But seriously, bro, like we're cooked. You know, and I don't mean to be a pessimist, right? Like be derisive, like, oh, you know, it's over. But seriously, like, you know, if this is happening in Islam, and I see this shit all the time on TikTok, it's not just her, there's other girls too. Well, then, like, you know, what's the future of the world? Islam is this harsh religion that has no soft lines. It's redlined everywhere, and it puts women down in a, even though that's not true. Okay, well, now that's not even the case. She's got a hijab on. And gang, by the way, what's the point of the hijab if you're going to wear all this makeup? I know that they don't like that. They don't want to hear that. No, you can't say that anymore, but it's true. It's like, bro, you're hiding your beauty, then you're beautifying the shit out of yourself. Like, gang, just pick a side, twin. You know? So, you know, you Christian niggas better be scared. Because if this is happening to the Muslim women, you know, they say, what do they say in the West? Well, the Muslim men beat their wives. The Muslim men beat their wives. Nah, nigga, not anymore. I'm joking. That's a joke. But seriously, like, that's, what do we see now in front of us? Lo and behold, blasphemy in its final form.
Internalizing Allah as masculine. Because Allah is not masculine. Allah is not a man. So, I don't know. Maybe it's coping. But I think if anything, we should be saying they, them, then. Because that's what we consider the gender neutral term in English.
Yeah, that's for humans. God's not a human, dumb bitch. Goodness gracious, bro. Goodness gracious. And even in the case of Christianity, God's a human. He's a guy. He's not a girl. You know. And this is the shit, bro. This is the problem. There are men. And this is going to be a little bit haram.
Haram!
If you know a guy, and this will all make sense in a moment. If you know a guy who like doesn't have any success with women, and he tries to, not like he's intentionally withholding himself for marriage, or he genuinely doesn't like to talk to women, he's focused on himself, like that's different. But if you know a nigga who's really trying to get box, who's always trying to get girls, and he can't get laid, and he's doing everything he can to get laid, run far from that nigga, because the chances of him sliming you for the ultimate opportunity of box are astronomically high. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen it. And the reason why I'm bringing that up in this moment is, you know, these are the kinds of women that men still somehow find the reality in appeasing to. Like, these women get confirmation and validation from men. You know, we've lost all morals as a society. And so you can bet your ass that if you've got a friend in your friend group, because this is just about protecting ourselves at this point, because the girls are too far gone. We're not saving this matter. But if you've got a guy who's always trying to talk to girls and never has success and whatever, one, he's probably a chud. Like, why are you hanging with that nigga? But two, and really the most important thing is, hey, he'll probably slime you. That's why, look, all my non-Muslims get boxed. I ain't gonna lie. They do. And that's why I trust them, because I know at a moment's notice, if it's me or a girl, the girl's going in the trash, you know? But so long as you got guys, because I see some guys telling her, oh, you know, sister, maybe that's not right, but you have your own interpretation, so may Allah guide you. It's like, nigga, what? Why are we being soft with this? We must fry her. We must fucking bake her to oblivion and dox her. She's calling God a girl. Are you not offended? You know, and I saw a guy standing up for this shit when I saw the original TikTok. So, you know, it just showed me, you know, because you know when you're getting ready to fight, you know when there's an opposing faction, you're getting ready to fight, and you look to your right, and your teammate's switching up on you. You know, you're on the battlefield, you got your sword out. I don't know why this is medieval era, but, you know, you're about to get into a fight. You know, you're at the bar. Okay, I'll give you a modern situation. You're at the bar, you're about to get into a fight, at the end of the day, it's really men versus girls. Like, it's boys and it's girls. And you got your niggas and the girls got their girls. You got the girls who are girls, and, you know, you got the niggas who will never put a girl over their nigga, you know? Hoes before bros, never, or bros before hoes, whatever, you know? And it's in situations like that, you better pay attention, you know? If I'm with my, hypothetically, if I'm ever with my boys and we're like talking to these girls and a girl says some stupid shit, right? And I reprimand her like a real ass nigga. And I'm like, yeah, that was dumb. You don't know what you're talking about. My boy's like, hey, take it easy. I'd be like, what the fuck? You know, like that. But pay attention. I can't tell you how many guys I known. I have a story from high school, but I'm not going to tell it. Not about me, but about a good friend of mine. I'm not going to blow his spot. I can't tell you how many guys I've known have been slimed by niggas who had all the red flags written on their forehead as to how they're going to slime them. And it all stems from them not having success with women. You know? So you think you watch some video like this of this Muslim girl saying that God can be a girl, and you think, oh, you know, like, she's crazy. She's on her own boat. No, there's a lot of people on that boat, and it's sailing, and it's covering ground, nigga. You know? So this is what the fatherless society has raised. No way she's got a dad in her life. If she does, I got some questions for him. You know? But there has been this big thing, this whole movement now of Muslim women who use the religion and try to make it seem like they're practicing, but then say shit like that. And it's like, yo, bro, we're not on board for any of that. We're not on board for any of that. And then people always wonder, why is your brother so provocative with girls? Why is your brother so rough? You know, it's a necessary evil these days. It is, because you've got shit like that. You got to counteract it. So, moral of the story, your bitch is going. If you've got a wife, she's probably going. So it's not about preventing it or avoiding it. Just accept reality and have plan B in the back burner. That's it. Just be ready. Just be ready with the next idea in your back pocket. Because guys try to go at this problem like there's an antidote. Guys try to attack this like, oh, I can fix her. No, you can't. No, you can't. And not to be too spiritual, but the ultimate step, if you can take this step as a man, you've really unlocked like all the wonders of life. And what is that? It's getting over the obsession of women. Once you can see past the pretty face and the eyes and all the nice things she tells you that you want to hear, and you take it for what it is, which is women are here to help us procreate. And I know I have a crude view on this, and so if you disagree, that's totally fine. You're entitled to your own opinion. You know, you have a wife and you have marriage or whatever, but sex is for procreation, it's for children, and children is to continue the bloodline. So to all my younger men, because I have a lot of young guys that watch me, and that's becoming evident as I receive all these DMs, really always understand, man, the one goal in life is to procreate. You know, you want to go and bang girls and whatever, okay, but ultimately that will just leave you empty. And I don't want to do the whole like religion pill thing. That's not what my show is about. You know, I'm going off on a tangent far enough already, but you really got to remember and take it to the bank. If you are obsessed with women, if you are obsessed with the idea of getting women, shit like that will slide right by you. And that's probably the same or similar type of personality or archetype you will procreate with. And if you can't see through those red flags, you have a family with that kind of girl, well, then your kids will perpetuate the vicious cycle. Not only that, but your daughter will probably go be a thought or a skis, and then you're going to want to take your own life. So, and somebody's going to say, how did he go down that rabbit hole? You know, it's about starting in the first step, not being a simp, you know, having respect. And Islam teaches that. Islam does teach that. You know, the Prophet has said in tradition, whether you're a Christian or not, this is something that's so true. He has said in tradition, after the Antichrist, right? After the Antichrist, the greatest trial to men, the greatest issue that men will face is women and nisa, women. And has that not become evident these days? So we all struggle, and I'm not speaking from a higher position than any of you may be in right now, but to all my younger men, and even if you're older, maybe this will be something that is just a good reminder for you, is, you know, never take them for more than what they are. They're a partner in your life. You need to procreate with them, And that's it, bro. I reject this whole like best friend shit, you know? You got your niggas and your niggas always gonna be there for you, bro. If you get along with your wife, that's great. And I'm not saying that there's any negativity to that. Like, I don't want to be so crude and pessimistic, but really, like, you know, it's moments and it's videos like that, and it's the way society is shifting and changing, and this, you know, fuck the patriarchy. It's all this stuff that just makes me go, you know, maybe sex is really just for procreation. Because men and women are at war now, bro. There's no secret. I'm not about to do this whole unifying bullshit. Men and women are at war. It's a war, bro. It's a war. You get married inside the church, get married inside the mosque. If you're not doing that, don't get married. Sorry, that's my opinion. You know, I need to be a little bit unapologetic sometimes. If you're not going to get married religiously, maybe it's just not the move for you. It's not. You know, if you want to have a girlfriend, you better be over the age of 30, and you better have your life figured out to a extensive degree. And I said this before, I'll say it again, because we got new people all the time. You know, you young men, a lot of you young guys, because, you know, I was once upon a time 18, now I'm 24, I'm still a kid, right? But the amount of growing and maturing that you do from the years of maybe 18 to 24 is greater than you'll do from like 30 to 50. Because those years compound. There's exponential growth each and every year in terms of maturity. And so I'd like to think that I've come to these terms very early in my life, but for the right reasons, because I'm not afraid of the truth. And, you know, this is just my opinion. You know, this is just my opinion. So, you know, a lot of people are going to say, what the hell, Riyadh? But that's just how I feel. But yeah, if you're a young guy, bro, you should not be in a relationship. You shouldn't. You really shouldn't. It's a waste of your time. You should be building yourself up so you can be a strong man ready to take care of a house. Fuck that relationship shit, bro. Forget all of that. Forget all of that. You know, and if you disagree, that's fine. You're here for the news anyways, so I don't mind. But, you know, man, this is coming from a guy, I like to think that I'm traditional, tradcon, you know? I'm traditional. I like older values. I'm a Muslim. But it's just worth mentioning. Okay, Mo Camera Shorts says she's talking about Allah in the washroom. Yeah, bro, you're not even supposed to mention God in the bathroom as a Muslim. But, you know, astoundingly enough, right, surprisingly, there's a bigger issue. She's calling God a girl. And that's a bigger deal than saying God in the bathroom. It's just crazy. Riyadh Dickham Down. Okay, thanks for the super chat. I got a village wife in Yemen. She don't control shit. Okay, good job. Good job. And yeah, that's the thing, bro. You know, my mom, this brings up something interesting, Peter. I mean, Riyadh, whatever. Your name was Peter before, but you changed your name. You know, my mom brought something up. She's like, well, you know, why don't you just get a girl from Sudan? I'm from Sudan originally. She's like, why don't you get a girl from Sudan? And, okay, how does that work? Like, logistically, how does that actually work? Like, it sounds good on paper, right? Like, you get a girl from the homeland. She comes here. She's not been infected with this feminism virus. But, bro, I've seen time and time again a nigga get a girl from Yemen, a nigga get a girl from Iraq, right? From like the slums, from these impoverished, destroyed, war-torn countries, right? And so you would think her values are super feminine, super traditional. And she gets here, give her 5 years, and she's just like the girls who were born here. To me, it's a matter of, you know, how much the girl actually fears God. That's the thing that's going to ultimately stop her from doing something stupid that society will inflict upon her to actually find attractive, like what society will motivate her to eventually do. So it's fearing God. She's got to be religious. It's not even because of, oh, being religious is good. It's also like that's protecting you. So that's in your best interest. And then it's also like keeping her away from the virus. And you don't know where the virus is. It can come from any direction, which is the idea of like, I don't need a man. I can work. You can get after it. America's set up for women to succeed, and it is. But that doesn't work in your favor when you want a traditional marriage and you want her to be home with the kids for the first 10 years or 20 years of their life, whatever, 18 years of their life. So, you know, I'm not even, you know, the whole passport bro thing is like, to me, that's even short-lived as well. It doesn't work because once you bring them here, they get what they want. Hey, nigga, you went to Colombia to get a girl. The girl gonna be the girl you want her to be when you're in Colombia. You get here, game's changed. She's here, and she got what she wanted out of you, which is why she gave you that behavior in the first place initially, which was this feminine, submissive, very soft persona, that can all flip when she gets what she wants, which is that passport, which is those papers. So it's like, yeah, you could get a girl from the village, but even then it's just like a lost cause. And then so somebody's going to say, well, what's your answer? Well, look, nigga, I'm not trying to be the biggest Debbie Downer. I'm going to get married. I'm going to have kids. God willing. Like, that is a goal, of course. I don't want to be an incel, but, while I can hold it off, I will. MJ says, how do you feel about marrying a non-virgin if you're not a virgin? Like, okay, so if you as a guy have had sex and a woman, I mean, we know it's different though. We know it's different, right? For a man and woman to be a virgin, like it's two different things. But, I mean, again, this is just me being real. Are you really going to find a girl who's not a virgin? Are you real? Like, come on. Like, probably not, nigga. Like, come on. Even if you're a Muslim, the chances are getting slimmer these days. You got a girl going viral on TikTok calling Allah a female in a bathroom. But you're banking on your girl not being a virgin? All right, bro. You might have to keep wishing. Keep dreaming, buddy. Keep dreaming. Get ready to speak, I don't know. Keep dreaming. Riyadh says, this dude's chatting in at my name. She arranges that shit, how she cares for stability. Yeah. Cher BD says, I'm from Bangladesh. If I say that men are leaders to women, all my former classmates, men and women, look at me weird. Feminism is pervasive. Yeah, bro. It just, and this is what I'm trying to say. Like, you guys think that I'm being this like Myron. I'm really just being real. Like, I'm being dead serious with you. I can lie to you. And say, get married. But, like I would be doing you a disservice. Because here's the thing. Many men don't even know how to vet properly for the proper wife. And all the guys who do are usually actually single. You ever notice that? Like, the guys who have the qualifications to vet for a wife don't actually get a wife because they realize it's like not tangible. You're not going to really get everything you need. But I'm not trying to promote this bachelor lifestyle either because that's haram. But I'm just saying, the existence of feminism has created the modern day misogynist. Misogyny and this whole, manosphere thing, that's a response to feminism. That's the way the world works. That's the way life works. There's always going to be a response to some ideology that may even become more extreme. So it is what it is, right? But what do I know? But I know a lot of you are here for the news, so I'll chill out, okay? I know a lot of you like the news and stuff. I'll take it easy. All right. But anyways, I think I will... All goers from LA to Barry, Nile Street to Main Street. Okay, thanks, MJ. Anyways, I think I'll close out. And you guys can head over to Fresh and Fit. Go ahead and raid that. Say W Fresh and Fit. And that's really the news. Yeah, that's kind of the long and short of the news. Like I said, shorter stream. I promised at this time it'd be like 2 hours. Well, we just hit 2 hours. The goers. Yeah, they're going, man. And then, like, if there's a female watching, God bless you. I don't mean to be I'm not trying to be nasty or divisive. And women are like, and now it's like, all right, now he's fighting back for it's not what I'm doing. I'm unapologetic. I could care less what somebody thinks. I genuinely do believe that women are a beautiful thing. But as a man, you still have to, and they're not mutually exclusive, right? Like, women are a beautiful thing. They are our mothers. They are our sisters, our grandmothers, our colleagues in many instances, our cousins, right? Our close associates. And so I'm not saying, screw all of them and whatever. That's not what I'm doing. And that's never what I'll do. But what I am saying is they're not, these two ideas, the one that I explained previously and the fact that women are still women, is they're not mutually exclusive, right? Like, how can I word this without really sounding too abrasive? They serve their purpose and I appreciate them for their God-given purpose. But when they strive way too far outside of that, then they become a person that is really difficult to share space with. And that's what you're expected to do for the next existing years of your life when you get married. So what does that mean? That means make sure you find the right one, nigga. That's all it means. something that a lot of guys don't possess the ability in doing. And this is why, like, you know, having game and experience helps, because you're not going to jump on the first one that comes your way. And the first one that comes your way is usually not the right one.
There's nothing.
Your first love is not going to always be your real one or your true one. But a lot of simps that don't have experience may find that to be the case. And that's why I'm not saying go bang chicks, right? It's haram, just wait for marriage. But the guys that have experience typically understand these things much better. The guys that don't have a hard time grasping it. But it's not until you've been through it that you get it. So, you know, it is what it is. Look, here's another one. Here's another one, bro. I forgot I even favorited this. I'm not going to play this song because I'll get copywritten. But Muslim propaganda I'm no longer falling for. All right, let's read this. Music is haram. These are things she's disagreeing with. Hijab is mandatory. Your hair is awra. Awra meaning a part of your body that cannot be exposed. Modesty prevents assault. Nail polish or acrylics invalidates wudu, and your prayer won't be accepted. Marriage is half of your deen. Meaning marriage is half of your religion. That's what the Prophet says. You should fear God, weaponized to control you, not to help you connect. No, you should fear God. God as a he, okay? Women are meant to hide their beauty. Women can't wear perfume. Women can't wax or do their brows. So these are all going against existing Islamic rulings that, you know, of things you shouldn't be doing. But this is the reality, you know, and I can go on for days. I can go on for days with proof that this is a real legitimate ideology, and it's local to me. You know, I've met girls who think this way. So somebody's got to say it. I'll be the guy to say it. This is my little tangent, though. Somebody's chatting in and saying, "Bro, can you talk about Iran?" No, I'm done with the girls, bro. I'm done with the girls. We love women. We love women. Anyways, okay. Jeremiah says, I feel the same way, bro. My peoples keep on telling me to get a girl from Vietnam. Like, bro, they are no better, but I'm not saying it's not impossible. Yeah, it's not impossible, but it's just like, that's not actually going to fix it. Greetings, Riyadh. That's one thing I disagree with Muslims on. It's not really Christ-like or pleasing to God to imprison non-believers. Huh? Ken Rose, thanks for the $5. I'm not sure what you mean. It's not really Christ-like or pleasing to God to imprison non-believers. Islam doesn't imprison non-believers. I'm not sure what you mean there. Jeremiah True, love your tangents, bro. Hey, thanks, bro. I appreciate it. But yeah. Yeah, I already spoke about Iran. Okay, buddy. Somebody in the chat said that. Thank you. I already spoke about Iran. I spoke about it for like an hour. Okay. No, it's really just not much to talk about. I'll drag on for as long as I want to, but that's really the situation. If you really want to be able to kind of understand what's going on, just know that the ceasefire is over. Iran is doing whatever the hell they want. Trump looks stupid, and the U.S. is likely to strike now more than they were in the last week because the ceasefire is over effectively today. So that's what you need to know. But scroll back. I'll make a video out of this stream in regards to the Iran situation, so you guys will have something nice to watch tomorrow. But that's really the brunt of it, okay? No more red pill. We love women. No misogyny over here. And that's about it, guys. Love all of you. Appreciate you. What camera do you use? A Canon R8. Appreciate all of you guys. Much love. Oh, while I'm here, I keep saying I'm going to end the stream, and I don't. I got about 800 or 900 of you in here. And so please go show love to the clips page. It's Riyadh Pilled. And then somebody made a fan, that's on Instagram. Somebody made a fan YouTube of me. You guys like it? You guys like the streams that much? Really? Thanks, guys. You know, I'm blushing. If I wasn't so dark, you'd be able to see my cheeks getting red. Let's see if I could find it. Yeah, so somebody made a channel, Riyadh Clips. I have no idea. Go check it out and sub. Swear to God, this is not me, but I don't know who made it. So go ahead and show some love. I guess they're going to be clipping my stuff. I won't copyright them. Appreciate all the help to try and extend the message. But until next time, guys, we will cover the next segment, or really the next development in Iran. I'll be live tomorrow. Don't worry. Me and Myron will be live to give you guys whatever develops from now until then. So the next 24 hours, whatever's in the news. We'll cover some domestic stuff, but really I don't see anything that's interesting to me or that you guys would maybe want to hear about. I know you guys just like to hang out on stream with me, so I'll try to do these more relaxed things more often. But in regards to this show, that's about it. God bless all of you. I really appreciate the love. OSS niggas in here. Jump over to Fresh and Fit. Show them some love. Because I know Hassan is on there. They got a Muslim lawyer, but they got a good lawyer on there who's probably talking about like divorce issues and things. I imagine that's the substance of the conversation. So go over there and check it out. But I will see you guys tomorrow. We'll be right back with the show at around at the same time. That's going to be for Thursday. And yeah, hopefully no breaking news happens like the United States nukes Iran later tonight, because I'll do an emergency show. But I doubt that, and we hope that's not the case, God forbid. But love you guys. Until next time.